We did a playlist in the back of issue 1, and there's some clues in there.
All right, guys, the Archies, an ongoing series. I've talked with you a lot. I know that you're a big, big music fan, and I know Matthew is too. So how are you bringing that love of music into the comic?
I think one of the things for us, when Matt, Joe, and I were first talking about it, is nobody's ever told the origin of the Archies, like how they come together. We've always seen them in the classic Archie stories. It was always kind of just in the background. They're always in a band. So we wanted to show that and show the highs and the lows. And for me, I've been in bands and played a lot of music in New York and around town, and Joe's been in bands, and so has Matt. So we wanted to bring a lot of those personal experiences into the story.
The first issue shows how they all came together. Now Reggie became part of the band. Clearly, Archie and Reggie in conflict go hand in hand, right? And because Archie's also kind of, he was described somewhere as Brian Wilson-esque.
Yes.
Except not being, paralyzed in bed. Right. So are we gonna see that conflict between, stubborn, hard-headed egomaniac Reggie and Archie the control freak?
Yeah, I think one of the things we wanted to make sure is that we gave each character their moment and a role. Like Reggie, you'll see him kind of fall into the role of default manager for the band, like setting up the shows and driving the van. And Archie's going to realize that just because the band is named the Archies, it doesn't mean that every decision falls to him. And we really wanted to show like Betty and Veronica coming into their own, and Betty coming up as a songwriter and really saying, well, I have songs too, and I want those to be played. And then we have all these guest stars. So
yeah, let's talk about the guest stars. Issue 4, you have the Monkees coming up, which is very meta because that seems like the perfect guest star for the Archies comic book series. So you guys are both big Monkees fans, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So how did that come about?
Well, what's funny is when we first got the book rolling, we didn't announce it. We didn't announce that real bands were coming, so we started reaching out to a bunch of different groups, and they were a little hesitant. They weren't really sure like how to wrap their head around what this was. Then we announced Chvrches was coming in issue 3. And then the floodgates opened. So now we're kind of booked until at least issue 12, hopefully if we get that far. But the Monkees were one of the early adapters. They were like, it's such a perfect fit, like the Prefab Four meets the Archies, like they come from the same era, Sugar Sugar, Don Kirshner, all these cool pop culture
Certainly catchy tunes,
Yeah, so, and I think the question I've gotten a lot is, oh, are they gonna time travel? Is it a magic spell? It is both those things and neither of those things.
So tell me about, drawing this series. I mean, you're obviously known as like a great cover guy, and whatnot, but I would imagine this book is kind of tricky because you don't have the big fight scenes that you see in comic books and whatnot. So is it fun, tricky, challenging, or all of the above to draw a book about a band?
It's definitely all of the above. I mean, what I love about Archie, and particularly about this book, is there's still an emphasis on humor. Archie, he runs into trees. He's kind of a goofball. So, and the conflict comes from, the interpersonal relationships of being in a band and the conflicts that arise. I mean, it's basically like being in a marriage, with 4 other people, and so there are for sure going to be major conflicts that pop up.
Okay, so Church is coming up. The Monkees. Give us another band that's coming up to issue 12. Come on.
I will tell you one thing. We did a playlist in the back of issue 1. And there's some clues in there.
Excellent. Well, I can't wait to keep on reading the book and hoping you guys get to at least issue 12 to see all the other guest stars that you're not telling us about.
Thanks so much for having us.